Hello, today we will be going over the Fide World Cup, Karjakin versus Fedogov, round 3.1. I chose this game because White chose to forward his pawn in the FAWN PAWN tradition that LC0 Lila chess uses, the FAWN PAWN. So White does that exact same thing. White advances his H pawn to H6, and I thought it would be interesting to go over this game because it's in the shades of Alpha Zero. Unfortunately, Karjakin blundered, one move blunder at the end. Most of this game was even. It even looked drawish at one point. So we start off with E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop B5, knight F6, D3, Roy Lopez, Berlin defense, bishop C5. Here, White decides to take the knight on C6. C3 is the most common move here. But we have bishop takes c6. Again, I chose this game because of the future FAWN pawn movement of the H pawn. Let's see if that FAWN pawn was put to good use. D takes, knight b d2, castle, queen to e2, knight d7, repositioning the knight in this Berlin defense. Knight c4, rook e8, bishop d2, b5, attacking the knight. Knight goes to e3. Knight goes to f8. I'm trying to see what the future of that knight could be. Maybe g6, f5, f4, h4. Now here we have the advance of the h pawn starting. The h pawn will advance to h6, where it will be a FAWN pawn. The term used when Alpha Zero advanced its pawns to the 6th rank. A4, A5. I'm sorry, A4. The term was really initially used by King Crusher. He came up with the term FAWN pawn, I believe. Bishop b6, h5, knight to e6, queen d1, knight d4, h6, g6. The pawn is now stuck on h6, FAWN pawn on h6. Knight takes, queen takes. Computer prefers e takes here. The e takes, the knight would be forced to reposition itself. We have e takes, knight f1. Knight has to reposition, and it's an equal position here. That knight f1 is not particularly good, I don't think. But we come back to the exchange. A takes b5, c takes b5, queen f3, queen goes back. Because of the threat, the white queen is threatening mate, queen to f6 and queen g7 mate. I wonder if rook e6 could have been a move also. Rook to e6 is an option, but that has to be stopped. Maybe even and queen d6 is good. Just stopping queen f6. Knight d5, that's a good square for the knight. Looking at f6. Karjakin plays f5 to eliminate that knight f6 threat. Let's see. Yeah, f5 is about the best move there. f5 eliminates knight f6 threat. Knight takes bishop. Pawn takes, bishop takes. Not g takes. No, that would open up the king side. G takes would be a catastrophe. Bishop takes. What if g4 here? That's a bit too aggressive. Queen takes pawn. Queen to b7. Sorry, queen to b7, attacking the pawns on the queen side. Queen to b7 also threatening queen g7 mate. Rook there to stop the mate. Queen c6, bishop there. Bishop d7, attacking the queen. Queen d5, rook e6. Castles. Queen to e8. White has a slight advantage here. Rook e1, looking at e5. Can't capture e5 just yet. Queen attacked. Queen all the way back to a2. Queen f7, rook e3, rook a e8. And white is going to triple on the e file, attacking the e5 pawn. The rook 1 to e2 eventually. b3. Computer says the queen to a1 immediately. Now queen to a1. Also attacking e5. Queen f6 to defend e5. What if f4 here? Actually, computer doesn't like that move. Computer prefers queen f4. The queen is not protected on f6 here. I guess if f4, see what happens if f4 here. Oh, well, he could just take f4. I'm looking at trying to take advantage of the hanging queen on f6. No, queen just takes f4. No problem avoided. Should have seen that. Rook g. Rook 1 e2. Making way for the queen to come to e1. Bishop d5. That FAWN pawn is on h6. That pawn on h6 is also a weakness. It limits black's motion. And so far the pawns are even. Queen to e1, tripling on the e file. That's an Alekhine gun. Alekhine's gun, I believe, with this formation. Rook up. Bishop c1, queen h4. Bishop b2. Everything's trying to attack e5. So now what happens if we can't take on e5? See, bishop takes, or rook takes. Wait. Queen takes rook. Oh, if rook takes, then bishop takes. King takes, and we have a perpetual. Queen. Yeah, we have perpetual check in this position. And if, let's see, if bishop takes, maybe we'll get the same thing. Yes, bishop takes, we get the same thing. Bishop takes g2. But white would have more of an option here. Bishop takes e5 is not an absolute, well, if right now if king takes, that would be a draw. See, if king takes, I can't go queen a. It has to play rook takes first, then threatening the perpetual. Because the bishop can go to g3 if queen g4 check. So bishop takes would have been a better shot, but it's still relatively equal. Because then you have bishop takes, king takes, yeah, then rook takes e5. So either way, if white captures e5, we have bishop takes g2, which leads to a perpetual. So white did not capture. Evidently white doesn't want the draw. Rook to h3. White realizes with the pressure on e5, white still holds all of the cards. Queen g5, rook g3 attacking. Now the FAWN pawn is now captured, which allows white to capture on e5. White has a slight advantage. Rook e to e3. Now, can we play d4 or... yeah, actually d4 here. d4 would be better here. I would play d4, cementing that bishop on e5. Instead, white moves the bishop, but I think d4 is a pretty automatic move. Well, f4, but yeah, f4 or d4 here to keep the bishop on e5. Instead he moves the bishop, and the bishop, which was attacking b6, now we have b5, bishop b6, queen d6, rook takes e6, rook takes e6, rook e3, rook takes, queen takes, then a4, bishop c5, queen d5, threatening mate, f3, a takes. Now, what would happen if I was looking at let me see, a3, and white would have to keep a constant eye on that a pawn. But what we have, let's see, bishop takes. If a2, then bishop c3, and that neutralizes the a pawn. But the a pawn is a thorn there. So I wonder if white would have to play queen to d4 eventually, maybe to try to exchange queens. But well, white is still slightly up here in this position. It's very interesting. Has to keep an eye on that pawn in this position. But that was not played. We have a takes instead of a3. Instead of a3, black takes, c takes, then queen takes b3. Queen up, queen f7, bishop d4, king f8, bishop check. Now here, this is like an offer of a draw. Well, if bishop c5, again, we could repeat position. Bishop c5, king g8, bishop d4, king f8. That would be a draw. But white continuously declines a draw. Queen to d5, and Karjakin blundered here with queen to d5. Now he has mate coming. Queen to d5 blunder. I don't know what the time control situation was at this point, but we have bishop c5 check. And that's a he has to take the bishop to avoid, so he blundered. And the king has to move if king g8 mate in 5. Starting with queen there check, queen to b8 check. We have queen to b8, king to f7, queen check, king to e6, queen to e7, king forced there, then g4 and bishop e3, or queen e3 mate. So that's an unfortunate blunder by Karjakin on what would be a fine game. It was level, it was even. So I just wanted to go over this game because of this FAWN pawn on h6, which was a interesting concept. Wonder if Vitiugov was watching LC0 Leela chess, some Leela chess games with that FAWN pawn. All right, that'll be it. Until next time.